Beep, 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 beep. Welcome to the court of the Edijester. How are we, everybody? Last couple of days, literally, before we start the new seminars with the Warrior Teachers, our new group, which is starting on Monday. If you'd like to join us, please let me know. Links are in the doobras as usual. Come and be a Warrior Teacher. I've got something for you today that's terribly interesting. Oh, subscribe, by the way. Buy me a coffee. The usual. Yep. Right, okay, so I've got something quite interesting today, which comes from a magazine, online magazine, called The New Criterion. And here they are discussing Donald of the Trump. Along he came with a trumpety Trump, 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 who's been upset a few people. I don't know whether you've noticed. He seems to have his sights firmly set on certain things, and it's causing much jocularity and joy. And in other quarters, much despair. The meltdowns are a joy to behold. People screaming at their cameras in the car. Why did you do it in the car? Screaming and shouting at the cameras in the car. And some great satire coming out of this as well. It's just brilliant, isn't it? Because the left can't meme. Right, okay. I know, it's annoying to those of us that have a more centrist bent, that this man is anywhere near power, but my God, he seems to be doing a lot of right things and making a lot of the right noises, doesn't he? So the new criterion says here, within a day of taking the oath of office, President Donald Trump, oh, say, can you see? Do a Bane. What a lovely voice. Issued several executive orders terminating diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the federal government. He directed federal departments and agencies to terminate, to the maximum extent allowed by law, all DEI, DEIA, and environmental justice offices and positions, including, but not limited to, chief diversity officer positions, all equity action plans, equity actions, initiatives or programs, equity-related grants or contracts, and all DEI performance requirements for employees, contractors, or grantees. I cannot tell you, in talking to a couple of American folk I happen to know, Warrior Teachers, the chills this is sending down the spine of the radical hard leftists embedded in the Democratic Party. It really is frightening them. And I'm simply here for that. I don't know whether you are. You'll let me know in the comments. Trump rescinded his predecessor's DEI initiative and went so far as to revoke Lyndon Johnson's 1965 executive order that laid the foundation for subsequent affirmative action, diversity, and DEI initiatives in federal contracting and hiring. Now, this is a very interesting point, even for us Brits or anybody else for that matter. There are weasel clauses like Lyndon Johnson's executive order there, which may have been required in 1965, but is certainly not required now. I imagine it was required then. That this kind of affirmative action, which we are practicing in this country, needs to end. There is a section in the public sector equality duty. There's sort of gaps in the law which say that you can preference certain people over others, provided you can justify it. That needs to go. The whole thing needs to go. There will be no preferential treatment for anyone. You know why? Because it's 2025. It's not 1981. Okay, women are doing fantastically. Women doing really well, right? Have a look. Go and have a look. You don't believe me? Go and have a look. They're doing really well. Medicine, yep. Management positions, consultancy, doing really well. Black people doing really well. You know why? Because some people know the value of hard work. That's why. You want to see where the problems lie? It's actually with white working class boys. That's where the problems lie, but nobody wants to deal with that one. So the idea is we don't deal with any of it. Because we shouldn't be. You shouldn't be interfering. Get out of the way of business and get out of the way of organizations. So in other words, this kind of sloppy legislation, which has let in hard left influences right across the West, has to be completely excised from law and from policy and from practice. I wonder how we, in the GC movement, will deal with that. There are those of you that who will think it's a good thing. Those days are over. This entire boondoggle, this entire nonsense that we're living with has come from that kind of fracture at the beginning, which is magnified. A fracture, which in the case of Johnson, for example, was needed, but is no longer. He did not stop there. Trump, this is. Federal employees administering these programs were ordered out of their offices by 5 p.m. on January the 22nd and placed on administrative leave. It's just glorious. Other federal employees were cautioned that they could lose their jobs if they attempted to continue these programs by disguise or by unlawful means. Now, that's a really important point there, and I hope you get that it's a really important point, that if they attempted to continue these programs by disguise or unlawful means. This is going to happen here. They've already started. Look out for words like belonging, well-being, and well-being, any of the usual lexicon that you would get from the wokesters, and also be very aware of organisations who are attempting to supplant things like EDI and DEI by providing another service that proclaims to be able to get it right. You can't get it right. The whole thing's fetid. And I'm including people on our side on this one. Right? Because no, we are not supplanting Stonewall, for example, with something else. You simply can't do it because the entire edifice is rotten. Right? If the Equality Act is so good, Dusty, if the Equality Act is so good, if you know, you know, the Equality Act is so good, why does it need all this interference? If the Equality Act is the shield that we require in order to protect people, why does it need all this interference? It doesn't need it. It doesn't need ambassadors. Isn't that what they're being called by the LGBT Alliance? It doesn't need an individual to go in on behalf of LGBTQ people or BIPOC people or anything else. The whole damn thing ends. Business gets back to doing business, and organizations get back to their core, their core work. What is it they're set up to do? And we don't spend time training people. We don't. Okay? If somebody breaches the Equality Act, i.e. by not treating somebody fairly, that's an issue of the law. You don't go around teaching everybody that there's this, that, and t'other. You tell them, don't discriminate against anybody, right? Be respectful of your colleagues, present a professional image when you're in work, and take the rest of yourself home. This is where it's going to get. We have to get strong on this, because if the law is broken, if an employee feels that they've been treated in a biased way, then they should bypass the employer and go straight to the court. The employer should not have any responsibility for dealing with adults who fall out over identity politics. That's how the web works. Well, what we'll do is we'll make the employer responsible, because that's what's happening with the pubs. We'll make the publican responsible for what the people say to the employee. This all ends. You separate it out. You think you've been discriminated against? Stand up for yourself and take somebody to court. You think you've been discriminated? Have the conversation. Now, if that individual discriminates against you in recruitment, that's a different story, because they should have been trained properly by the employer. And if they haven't been trained properly by the employer and they discriminate against you, then of course the employer is responsible for that. But that's where it should end. Managing people's lives to the point of, nitpicking. It's just insane. So, federal websites connected to DEI initiatives soon went dark as the Office of Personnel Management ordered agency heads to remove all outward-facing media connected to these programs. This is what we need over here. Federal contractors were told to terminate all DEI and affirmative action programs. Corporations, universities, and charitable organizations were put on notice that they should be prepared to rescind these programs as well. I think this is a tremendous move. You can go and read the rest of the New Criterion article. There's some fascinating stuff in there about civil rights and the history of the American civil rights movement. But I think what we are seeing here is a template for the future. And that template's being given to us by Donald Trump, bless him, and all who's sailing him. Right? So, God knows what he's going to do next. World War III? That's the nervous bit, isn't it? It's like, bloody hell, we've got what we want. But, World War III? There isn't going to be a World War III. Please don't let there be a World War III. I think we are seeing tremendous moves. The saving of women's sport, the beginnings of the eradication of DEI and EDI. What I don't want is the LGBT Alliance, or anybody else for that matter, coming along and filling that gap with something else that is equally open to corruption and equally open to causing problems as this has. It ends completely. You want your workforce to do a good job? Educate them properly. Educate them about the world we're in, the world we're going to, and the world we've come from. You don't need to obsess over equality, diversity, and inclusion to make sure that you can get the job done. It's cheaper to take the hit. Okay, folks? You let me know whether I'm completely wrong. More than happy to be so, as usual. Other than that, I'll let you get on with it. Go read the article. It's really good. I'll see you later, okay? Come and join us. Warrior Teachers. Bye-bye.